Thank you very much for this panel discussion and our invitation. We will talk about mining today. Mining is the real game. No jokes. It's a real game, and only people who are persistent, resilient, who have patient capital, long-term thinking, can do mining and exploration in Pakistan. I have to be a bit careful today because two of the panelists are my bosses. Minister is my boss because I'm chairman of Pakistan Mineral Development Corporation, and Mr. Tabba is my boss because he's chairman of NRL, so I have to be very careful. So Colonel Saab and Zarrar, I can ask whatever questions from you, but I have to be careful with the other two. So I'll be very decent asking questions from them, otherwise. Anyway, so Bismillah Rahman Rahim. It's a privilege to welcome all of you to this meeting. Pakistan's primary focus today is copper and gold, followed by antimony, followed by barite, lead, zinc, and then rare earth elements. That's the government policy that they are working on it. These priorities reflect country's strategic approach to maximizing economic value. Pakistan is said to have USD 7 trillion of mineral resources, and we'll talk to the gentleman. थोड़े दिन पहले उन्होंने बुलाकर मुझसे यही सवाल पूछा था, तो आज मैं इनसे ये सवाल पूछूंगा. तो 7 trillion of prospects, but it is not really the number. Numbers really do not matter. It is whether we are prospect or not, and without any doubt, we are the most unexplored country in the world. We have an excellent panel. We have two representatives coming from the government who will tell us the policies of the government, what government is doing on mining sector. And at the same time, we have Zarrar, who's going to talk about the foreign investment. And we have Mr. Tabba, who's going to talk about the domestic investment into mining sector. Please imagine Pakistan is now on the verge of having two major projects in Pakistan. One is obviously Reko, $7-8 billion of investment, no joke. And then we have Sadiq, very close to Reko, another $1.5 billion, $2 billion investment. We don't get to hear much about Sadiq, but Sadiq is another project almost in league with Reko, at least in terms of timing. Both the projects are almost ready to be started in terms of the mine construction, stuff like that. And inshallah, before end of 2030, both the projects, Allah ne chaha, Zarur, both the projects are extremely important for Pakistan's mining sector, extremely important. If these projects do not happen or anything happens to them, then these are the anchor projects and they must happen. We must do everything to make these projects happen. So we'll take a start with the minister, sir. Pakistan's mineral wealth is often quoted at whatever, 7 trillion. How much of this is, what is your own feeling about this number? And what initiatives are underway to move from assumption to proven mineral resources?
Thank you, Sheikh sir. First of all, for telling the entire house that this is a fixed match. But after that, I think, firstly, I need to congratulate PBC on holding this seminar on the economic journey that we are trying to embark over the last couple of years. And I think PBC has tried to enrich the conversation and the discourse that we are having on the economy today. I am in touch with quite a few of you who are gathered here today. At a personal level, I keep consulting them on various issues. You have Mr. Yusuf Hussain, who's been my boss at ABN AMRO. So I also have a sword hanging over my head. So anything that I say wrong, he's to be blamed, and I've got nothing to do with it. And then your current chairman, Ms. Zilaf, she's a close family friend, and she's undertaken a huge sacrifice. She was supposed to be on a girls' holiday with my mother, and she chose to stay back. And so I appreciate what PBC is trying to do, and I've always tried to espouse the positive criticism and the feedback that you have tried to give to whichever government is in power so that they can course correct. But I think one thing that I would like to open with is that the economic solutions are very simple. It is the political economy that has to be managed, and that is where we require your support as an advocate of the economy. So now on to the mineral potential and the elephant in the room, the $7 trillion. So I think in easy language, whatever I have gathered over the last couple of months since I've been looking after this division, I think it's just a hypothesis that the geologists have come out for the potential of the sector. It is a presumed value of the mineral endowments. It's the potential, but it's neither been measured nor is it an indicated resource estimate. So maybe that will peak the hype that we have built around this number, but I think we need to be careful in navigating this sector from hypothesis to actually converting this into verifiable, bankable reserves. And that is where the two large projects, and I think a project which is slightly smaller than this, Sandak, which is already operational because these are under development, come in because they have provided you insight into what needs to be done if we have to move from the primitive means of mining to a more mechanized, sustainable and responsible paradigm, mining paradigm. And another thing, I'm glad you said patient capital and not just capital, because, you know, while I was coming for this summit, I went through the papers in my ministry and I actually wanted to learn when was that first dollar that was spent on the Reko project. And yes, there was a lull of a couple of years because of the litigation that was ongoing. But even if you normalize the time and adjust it for that brief lull, I think it's taken decades for us to come at a level where now we have nearly attained the single largest private sector financial close, which is about $3.5 billion. And you're absolutely correct, the first phase is going to be over $7 billion. So I think that is something that we must keep in sight. So what is the government doing in order to enable companies like Natural Resources and many other private sector players is, I think, where the conversation needs to be. Rather than chasing these magical numbers, I think what is being done to convert that and to encourage and to build that ecosystem, that this activity starts happening in the most challenging of terrains with the bare minimum infrastructural support. I think that is where the real conversation needs to be, and I'm sure, despite you being the chairman of PMDC and I being, unfortunately, the Petroleum Minister for now, you will still interrogate me on. So I don't know whether you want me to dive into that at this stage. Or so one thing, but the biggest challenge in moving the needle on this front was that, as per our constitutional scheme, mining and the mineral resource is a provincial subject. So when any serious player or mine operator wanted to come into this segment, the biggest challenge was whom should they talk to. So if he wanted to do a project in Sindh, there was a different set of legislation, there was a different set of rules, there was a different set of licensing arrangement that they had to go through. Then if he wanted to do something in Balochistan, he had to go through another ream of rules and documentation to understand how to proceed on that. So in the last 1 year, what have we tried to do? And here I will connect you with the Pakistan Mineral Investment Forum 25, which most of you did attend. Tabba sahab was there, most of you were there. There we tried to roll out a huge initiative that was already underway, where we wanted to harmonize the regulatory framework, the ESG standards, the safety standards, and encourage the provinces to adopt the same legislation without taking away the ownership of the resource, so that we could encourage capital to flow into this sector. This was done after benchmarking all the rules through international consultants like White and Case with the best jurisdictions in the world. And that set of rules and set of environment regulatory regime is now available under different stages of implementation. But I think that is one needle that we will have to take out if we have to unleash and encourage capital into this segment. The other was the fiscal regime, because if Reko Dick took 20 years, so before coming in, I was again speaking to Wood Mackenzie, which is one of the largest consultants in this sphere, and I asked him, forget about the tardiness on the side, on the Pakistani side. What is the quickest time frame internationally in which a large copper or gold mine has been operationalized from end to end? And they said the earliest that we can recall took at least 8 to 10 years to develop. So if the fiscal regime does not account for the risks, the challenges, and is not competitive enough of in terms of what other countries are offering to attract money into these projects, this thing will never happen. So what are we trying to do with Reko Dick? We are trying to set a standard. Once this is operationalized, the others will automatically have to gear up, and then we have responsible organizations like the Lucky Group and other players coming into this sector, and hopefully things will start shaping up. So moving from that presumed value, confirming it, then making sure that you can attain finances to close and operationalize those projects, then going into development, and then getting that pot of gold that you could have valued at $7 trillion. I think that's the long and short answer of that.
Thank you, sir. I'll now move to Colonel Hamid. Colonel Hamid, being one of the pioneers of mining industry in Pakistan, has worked in many, many different areas of mining. Would like to ask Dr. Saab two specific questions. One, obviously we talked about 7 trillion and a big number and stuff like that, whatever. But I would request you to be a bit more specific, talk about Pakistan's geological potential, where you feel that there is something that can be looked at. And also, on the other hand, one of the bigger problems Pakistan had, especially with Reko Dick, is what happened with the Supreme Court and what happened with the High Court and the law that we had, old laws that we had. You have also been the pioneer of developing that new law. So please talk about the geological potential and talk about the law that has been enacted right now.
Thank you very much, sir. Taking lead from Minister Saab's talk, I think it is important to understand that while mining sector is a very capital intensive industry, you got to give certain incentives to the early stage exploration. So if we presume for a moment that we have a 7 trillion resource in Pakistan, now that 7 trillion resource would require approximately $3.5 trillion to unearth it. So that is the amount of capital that is involved in the industry. So if you want this resource to come up and untap and serve Pakistan, I think the exploration regime has to be incentivized. And that is when the international investors would come and invest in Pakistan. And for that, you got to have your fiscal regime benchmark against leading, world-leading economies. Like the gold standard in mining is the British Columbia, the Canada, and Australia. So if you want international investor to come and invest in Pakistan, you got to have a better IRR for the companies to offer. So that is the benchmark. What we did over last 2 years is that, just to give you a context, Pakistan previously, as highlighted by Minister Saab, that the mineral is a provincial subject. So there were 6 different policies, 8 different acts, and 36 different rules and regulations across the country. So imagine if an investor is coming and he wants to invest, how many different rules and regulations he has to navigate to start his exploration. So what we thought, and everyone across the world told us, that you need to harmonize your rules and regulations for the sector to flourish. So what we did is we benchmarked our existing regime with the world gold standards like British Columbia and Western Australia. Then there were 2 countries, Indonesia and Kazakhstan, which are doing very well in last 2 decades in mining. Then not to-do list, the Chile and South Africa, which were powerhouses of mining industry, but they, because of certain policy interventions, their regimes is going down. So we benchmark our existing rules and regulations with these countries and take out the best practices out of them and have formulated a harmonized mineral regulatory framework for Pakistan. It includes the National Mineral Policy 2025, the Draft Act, a model act for all the provinces to adopt, and Balochistan has already adopted it, and then Health and Safety Act is another aspect. So while doing at the federal level, what we have done is we have given the provinces a model sort of a framework which they can adopt to come up to the expectations which the international investors have. So that was on the, as far as the harmonization is concerned. As far as the geological endowment is concerned, you know, geologically Pakistan is a blessed country, because if you study the geology, the collision of the African and Eurasian and Indian plate, it gives Pakistan that ingredient that there are minerals. Yes, there are minerals, but we need to unearth them. And the best thing to unearth them is to explore and to map our geology. Geological Survey of Pakistan, which is the sole custodian of geologically mapping Pakistan, unfortunately, the overall mapping status of Pakistan on 1:50,000. So for mineral exploration, you require the basic enabler is 1:50,000 mapping. It was at around 35% when we started this harmonization program. And with the support of the present government and with the leadership from the military leadership also, what we did is we started a program which is called as Accelerated Geological Mapping. So Alhamdulillah, I'm very proud to announce that now we have reached to about 80% of the area. So we have covered this gap. Previously we were at 35% and now 75–80% of the area has been mapped for 1:50,000. So now this is the data which is required for the investors or for the explorers to take. 1:50,000 is the basic data. And when we provide it free of cost, it is available to everyone online, then your resource would come to the national, to the global stage, and people would become interested in coming and exploring. And last but not the least, if Reko is inshallah going ahead, so this would be a torch bearer for other big companies to come and invest. And you have the geology. Rest assured, we have the geology. We have the Titian copper belt, which is entering Pakistan and going up north. So there is a lot of resource, but we have to be patient, and we have to give the investor that confidence that we have harmonized our rules and regulations, and these are going to stay for next decade or 2. That is all. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Colonel Saab. I'll ask more questions later. Tabba Saab, Pakistani investors are not known for long gestation projects, lots of risk money, long term. I know for sure because I've been involved. We have been spending money for last 6-7 years on NRL. So what you and your colleagues, and we are fortunate to have the other two sponsors of NRL, Mr. Fawad Mukhtar and Ashraf Mukhati Sahab, both of them are here. So Tabba, what made you or your colleagues enter into mining sector, into exploration sector?
I think I should ask you this question, that why, why did you got us involved into this project? Look, as you said correctly, that mining is a long gestation project. There's no doubt about it. As Minister said also, that before you see the dollar coming in, it's 10 years. So you spend money, for the first 5 years to do all your surveys, drilling, all your estimations. And you don't know that even after 5 years, that the project is going to be viable or not, financially viable or not. So 3 areas. It's a risk. You need a high risk project. It's a high return project. You need deep pockets. You need finances, and you need long-term commitment. So mining is about 3. So anyone who wants to invest in the mining sector, if you have 3 ingredients, which is risk appetite, your finances, and your long-term commitment, then one should try to see and make a commitment to go into mining. So when Shams was the SECMC, he used to come and pitch me to buy Tharkol. I said, forget Tharkol, let's go into Chagi district, do something bigger for the country. And it's not something that we wanted to do for ourselves. I think this is something we wanted to do for Pakistan. At that time in Pakistan, in private sector, nobody knew about mining. Nobody knew about Chagi district. We went very closely, to work with the establishment and the government to find the solution for the Reko Dam. At that time, we thought that private sector play a very pivotal role in resolving this government penalty of $6 billion and try to find an amicable solution between Antofagasta and Barrick. And NRL, played a very important role in getting this problem resolved for Pakistan. So when we say private sector, you need to understand that private sector is also very important for Pakistan. Yes, there are a lot of words being used for private sector, elite capture, elite culture. People believes that the private sector is only here to make money, and they are not willing to make commitment for risk or projects that requires national development. So private sector can play a very important role. And as I said, that when we conceived the idea of mining, we thought, and I thought at that time, that it's a project which is going to be of national importance. So we wanted to bring the stakeholders in the company, from the private sector, from other sectors. So it becomes a national project. It's not somebody that, owns individually, but something that is owned collectively. And then, I talked to Shams, he joined NRL, then we went to pitch to private investors. He mentioned name Ashraf Mukhati, Fawad Mukhtar, Arubai, which was also part of NRL in the first phase, but then Arubai decided to leave. So now it's 3 of us, Fatma Fertilizer, Liberty Mills, and Lucky. And we are absolutely committed. We know the risk. We know the commitment that is required to take the project forward, because this is a game changer for Pakistan. We need to understand, that any country in the world has developed because of the natural resources. The whole Middle East is oil and gas. If you go to Australia, it's agriculture, it's mining, South Africa, North America, And the world is changing, from the hardcore, large-scale, industries which were required a century ago, steel and petrochemical and all that is changed now. The world is looking for now critical minerals. World is looking for rare earth mineral, and of course, the technology, the AI. So that's a new buzz, in the West. And some of, like example, USA, they feel that they have left behind in securing the critical minerals, which is now going to be a raw material, to take forward all the renewables, electric vehicles, and so on and so forth. And they believe, that some of the other countries have taken a leap, and they went into different or difficult terrains at that time and made commitments, and now they're reaping the benefits of it. So now they realize that we also need to be in the game, and now Pakistan is right at the time, that we really need to make a policy which has been already done, but we need to make or we need to attract investments not just from one region. We need to bring investments from region, which has technology, know-how, some regions which are flush with capital. So we need to bring in, people, that can support the Pakistan vision of developing mineral, into a very important and a very significant, industry, which is going to play a very important role, because we need to export all that mineral, that will be mined in Pakistan or any other country that we mine, is all being exported. So Pakistan always talks about export diversification, and this industry, brings the perfect solution, that it creates a new industry for Pakistan, it creates foreign dollars. At the same time, it's also a solution for the province of Balochistan, the province which is, lagging behind other provinces. And this is the ideal opportunity, that we should give priority and build infrastructure, provide the basic necessities and have the inclusive growth, with the people of Balochistan. This mining is going to be successful when we going to get the involvement of the province, in a very proper and a very serious manner. So all the ingredients, which are there, me and Shams, I told Shams, let's go, I got the inspiration of mining from Congo. Because mining, Congo is very big in cobalt, gold, and copper mining, and we have a very large interest in Congo. So I travel every 3 months. So one day I said, Shams, let's go and visit the mines in Congo, because there's a lot of perception, in Pakistan, that Pakistanis can't do it. It's very difficult. It's not something that is something the private sector, of the Pakistan can do it. They always depend on the foreign the people to come and invest in Pakistan. So I took, Shams and we visited 2 or 3 mining projects. One was producing 250,000 tons of copper and 50,000 tons of cobalt. We went to the other mining, which was a similar 150, 200,000 tons. Each mine had its own smelter. The perception, that has been given to Pakistan that smelter is not feasible in Pakistan, I don't buy that story. Because every mine we went into Congo had its own smelter. And they were finishing from raw material all the way to 99.99% copper finished product. And they were transporting, from the southern part of Congo all the way to Durban port, which is about 2,000 kilometers, to export the commodity. So this perception of, that there's a lot of idle capacity of smelters available in the region, maybe yes, but why not have the smelter? Why not export finished goods from Pakistan rather than doing the slurries? And this is something I think Minister Saab and I think the government really has to look into it, that if it's something that's not feasible by each mine, but at least we can have a collective smelter, and a refinery, both for copper and refinery for the gold. And this is something, which is important for Pakistan, because rather than carrying so much of raw material, which is millions of tons, why not just do 250,000 or 200,000 tons of copper and ounces of gold, which becomes the easier logistic, lesser security challenges, and we are able to move to Karachi, which is about maybe less than 1,000 kilometers, I think, from Chagi district. So it's something that needs to come from the government of Pakistan as a policy, that, okay, first phase you can export slurry, second phase you really need to move into value-added products, because that creates more opportunity, that consumes a lot of power. So we solve the Ministry of Power problem, by consuming thousands of megawatts to consume and finish the product. So some of the areas in the policy, I think, needs to come from the government of Pakistan, and they really need to implement and enforce it. If you start listening to people, then people will say it's not required. But I think as a policy, we really need to make sure that we implement that. So, and also all these large projects, requires a group of people to come together, It's not about us, it's about Pakistan. And when we talk about Pakistan and we talk about large investments, if it's $1 billion, $1.5 billion investments, you can bring the foreign operator, and foreign investor if you want. But something like Reko, which is $6-7 billion, you can't do without the foreign investor, because that's something that requires the benchmark, that sets the benchmark that brings the financing and the capital and the know-how. And the know-how, can always be brought in, from any foreign country by appointing good operator, which has experience in the mining industry. But to make sure that you run the mine operation in the best of the capability and ability, and that comes in, with a lot of experience, which Barrick and other international miners brings to Pakistan. So for any project, I think whether it's mining or any large project, privatization, SOEs and all that, we really need to bring groups of Pakistani investors in the forefront, because they are the ones who are really going to buy this, who will be long vested in Pakistan, and all that investments, which will be made in Pakistan, the dollars will stay in this country and it's not going to flow out of Pakistan. Thank you.
Professor, just as a follow-up question, how important is Reko for Pakistan?
I think it's the flagship project of the Chagi district, and the success of Reko is going to be success for all of us. So it is very, very important.
Thank you, Ji. This brings me to Zarrar. We are very proud to have a very young Pakistani guy, Baloch guy, which is I think is a very, very important part heading Reko. He's the country manager of Reko, Zarrar. Zarrar.
No pressure on me.
Could you please provide update on the current status of Reko and everything that's going around? You guys are in news these days, Barrick restructuring, two companies, Barrick forming two companies. Yesterday's Mark Hill's statement on your commitment to Pakistan. So please tell us everything about Reko.
So
$7 billion.
I'll address what's going on first and then move to the Barrick part. So currently, RDMC is in a construction stage, right? So last couple of years, we did our feasibility study, we did our environmental and social impact study. Part of it was a lender requirement, part of it is necessary to estimate, do the estimation of the mining potential. So right now we're in the construction phase. We've gotten approvals from the SOEs, from our JV partners. We've secured lending as Minister Saab mentioned. So the phase one of the project will take around $5.6 to $6 billion to construct. This includes a 2,000 people camp mine, one of the world's largest copper processing plant, and ancillary items that we will require throughout the process. And that 5.6 to 6 billion, which rounds up to 7 because of the financing costs and the lender contingencies, 3.5 is something that we've sought from the lenders. So there's a consortium of 11 banks from Japan to US to Sweden, Canada. So we've got a very interesting mix of lenders currently. And we are going to use this money firstly to construct the project throughout phase one. So that roundabouts to $7 billion. And obviously, as others mentioned, this is Pakistan's biggest investment by far. And hopefully, as of now, we're on target. By 2028 end, we'll receive our first feed mill, and hopefully by 2029 Q1, we'll export our first concentrate. So that is where we are currently. And if you talk about Barrick, to be honest, so the news that has leaked was discussed at the board level, and it has only the problem that they're addressing is the fact that Barrick's share price has not performed as well as other mining companies. So obviously, the board needed to do some restructuring, which they have done. And if you look at Barrick's growth projects, their primary growth projects are either in Africa or in Pakistan, which are considered high risk by the international community and analysts and investors. So they wanted to sort of shift that impression that they need to focus on North America as well. And they have a very lucrative project over there by the name of 4 Mile. It's a gold mine. And that is something they want to focus on the short term and maintain the stance that Reko is, at the end of the day, it's a tier 1 mining company and probably the only undiscovered tier 1 mine in the world. So I think anyone who loses out on that loses out on the future of mining. And just to reiterate, Barrick has given out statements. Board has committed more than once, and even a couple of days ago, our CEO, Mark Hill, also reiterated that statement that they're here to stay. And to be honest, as a national of this country, the financing is secured, whether that's Barrick or someone else. We are going to go full steam ahead because our future depends on this project. I can't emphasize more on how important this is. And lastly, the support that the government is giving to this project, the entire establishment, it's phenomenal. So I think the priorities are right and we are moving in the right direction.
Thank you, Zarrar, and it's very, very nice to hear your confident statement. Inshallah, the project will happen. Reko is absolutely anchor project for Pakistan, and it must happen. We have already, Mr. Saab was saying, for the first amount, the first money that was spent on Reko was 95. And the first money Reko is going to make is 2030, 35 years. All it has taken money. I remember in Angro 2008, we started spending money on Thermine, and we made the first dollar in 2020, 12 years. It took us 12 years to do it. Pakistan, if you look at Pakistan, there are 2 Thermines, each approximately $1 billion, the large-scale mines. Then you look at Khuzdar, where we have got a lead-zinc mine being undertaken by MCC, another very, very good mine, world-class mine. Then another lead-zinc project that is happening under PPL, again in Khuzdar. Then if you look at Chaghi, then Sandik, Reko that is happening, 7 billion we already heard, then Seadik, 2 billion, and lots of other companies working at Chaghi, one of them obviously being NRL, Mari Petroleum, FWO, and lots of other people who are working. So some serious work is happening in mining sector, not only in this, but also in other parts of the country now. Country has thought through copper and gold. Now they are moving into antimony, thinking about antimony, how to do it. Antimony, as you know, is another very, very important critical element. Then mineral, then lead and zinc, on which Pakistan has already done 1 or 2 projects, and more projects are happening. And then obviously rare earth elements, which are obviously, because of what is happening these days, it's in use. Mr. Saab, I would like to ask, when I was doing SECMC has a complete different fiscal package that was given to SECMC. If you look at Khuzdar project, they have got a different fiscal package. If you look at Sandak, different package. Reko, completely different package. Seadik, different package. There is a way, whereas the law has been harmonized, very nice, but the financial part also has to be harmonized. Without financial project, one party getting something, the other party getting something else, other party getting something else, it is not going to work. So what are some of the things that are happening on this front, on the fiscal front, so that they are also harmonized?
I think to start with, I did not do a good enough job in answering the first question because Colonel Hamid and I tried to somewhat address this concern, but I'll take another shot. So it's a multi-pronged strategy, and mind you, we need to have that strategic alliance, but at a tactical level, no project will be identical to the other projects. So I think it is important to differentiate between the strategic imperative and the tactical tweaking that you would have to do for various projects. But yes, they have to be competitive enough to get patient capital flow into Pakistan. So what is being done to that, done to achieve that? I think that's where the discussion has to be. And I touched upon, since it's a multi-pronged strategy that the government is trying to thrash out, I touched upon the harmonization initiative that the government has tried to push. And I'll come to the fiscal regime also because it's equally important. And to address a comment that Tabba Saab made, that we need to encourage the most amount of value addition locally. I totally agree with that, but the biggest jump is when you convert it into the concentrate and then refining and smeltering. Yes, absolutely is important. So the framework that's been developed has a sliding scale. As you go up, the royalty incidence, the burden will reduce. And then there is also the concept of aggregating, because in order to run a critical smelter, you need to have a sustainable supply of material coming in. So the concept of industrial park, you are aware of that activity that we are also trying to do, and as to whether that will help in providing some relief to the power division, as Petroleum Minister, I will think about it. That's something that I will leave for another day. Huh? So on the mapping, I think Colonel Hamid has apprised the House. The 1:50,000 mapping, the advanced mapping exercise that Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif personally signed off on is costing about ₹1 billion just to map. And I think they expect to attain 100% coverage by the end of next year, if I'm correct. By June next year, that's even better. So I think that's crucial. And one thing that we did not touch upon is the revitalization of GSP. So that's being converted into an autonomous organization, because anyone who wants to come into this sector, this will be the first port of call for them to reach out to and dig out the basic facts and then carry on the exercise. So not only has that laboratory and that institution been revitalized, we've put in best equipment. Earlier, the materials were being sent to Canada for testing, and it would take you 15-20 days to get a simple report. So that equipment has been put in. We've put the guardrails around that system by ensuring that the latest ISO certification is there and that is sustained, because that will force every government that comes in after us to upgrade and keep the facilities up to date. And then the Act is also being reworked, and I think it will go into the session of the Parliament very soon, and that will provide sustainability to this. The fiscal incentives, now what you're talking about. So I acknowledge that the country risk, the terrain, these are challenges, these are projects which require long gestation periods, and the elephant in the room, we are also in an IMF program. So any exemption that you will have to allow to get this patient capital in will be a challenge. But the first step is acknowledging the problem, showcasing to the world that yes, Reko Dick has been achieved. We have attained financial closure of that. We are moving forward towards developing that project. I think that will be the first, the door opener for many more transactions to come in. And that's pretty much what the government is trying to do. And if I were to pin this entire development story, this sector development story on one enabler to realize the potential, it is being fiscally competitive and making sure that people like Lucky Group, Fatma Group, Liberty Group continue to flock into this sector and commit capital for decades, not years, and continue to develop these projects. So we will support that endeavor, and we look forward to welcoming each and every one of you. And there will be a lot of international delegates coming in for the PMIF, which we again plan to host in April 2026. So I think that will take this sector to the next stage, and you will see the entire state, and I'm not saying the government, whether it is the field marshal, whether it is the Prime Minister, the entire state and the entire country has to own it. The community has to own it if you have to take this sector forward, and we are committed to doing that, Ji. Thank you.
So we can talk for a long time on the mining, but I'll open the session for question answers because we just have got very small time left. So, यहाँ पर पहले somebody can give mic. पूछने सर सवाल. Yeah, please. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. We need to be, aware that mining minerals, is a very vast subject, and a typical experience in global South countries has been that it unleashes conflict. So one has to be very mindful of the overall governance and the distribution of the proceeds from the mining business, minerals business. So in this regard, I have two questions. One is that has the government considered joining the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative? And secondly, I have looked at recently, there has been a case study on Ghana's lithium project, and that is, to my mind, the way I've read the whole case study, is amazing piece of work. It addresses all sorts of dimensions of governance, legislation, contract, distribution, to the communities, etc. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. As far as the EITI is concerned, yes, this is what we should aim for, because we got to endorse that and be part of EITI. Apart from that, I think we discussed it internally also that we need to have Pakistan to be ranked on the Fraser Institute survey, which is a Canadian survey, which gives you ranking how easy it is to mine or do mining in a country. So I think EITI and Fraser Institute both are very important, and yes, this is on the roadmap to be part of them and introduce our country and then go forward for them. The third thing I think which I initially missed out is, and Minister Saab has highlighted, that is the revitalization of the Geosciences Advanced Research Laboratories. That is, we have accredited it for ISO 17025. So all the testing that is being done in Pakistan, previously it was through SGS Canada, now it would be done in GSP, and it would be accredited and JORC compliant, which is the global standard for mining. So I think that is a very important step, and in that attainment of that ISO certification, we have carried out proficiency testing, which is one of, from mining industry, you will know that if you have qualified the proficiency testing, which is blind testing by the SGS Chicago, and we done it, and we, mashallah, achieved 100% marks in that. So that was a big achievement. So yes, we have these different industry gold standards in mind, and we want to implement that in Pakistan.
Sir, just to add, I think the revitalization of GARL, you need to acknowledge the good work that the private sector is doing. I think in that journey, two private groups were instrumental in upgrading that facility. Muhammad Ali Tabba Saab is one of them, and the other one is Fuad Mukhtar. So I think the world needs to know the good work that they're doing.